Yes, you. Welcome to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast, a podcast for people who want to disrupt their lives for a good reason, to make it count. I'm your host, Jen Glantz, and every week I'll drop a new episode with stories from real people just like you, who woke up one morning and decided to make big changes, starting with small things. We'll cover topics like entrepreneurship, love, failure, and self-care. Hey, you're not getting any younger, so let's make this an adventure. Ready? Hey, any youngers, it's me, your host, Jen Glantz, back with another episode of the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. What's going on? I'm back here in Brooklyn, New York. It is officially the first day of fall when I'm recording this podcast, and outside it is cold, it is rainy, and all of a sudden this Brooklyn girl wishes she lived in Florida or somewhere that doesn't experience winters. We actually just renewed our lease in Brooklyn, so we will be living here for another year of our life, which is so crazy because 4 years ago, we were on our adventure, Adam and I, where every couple of months we lived in new cities. We lived in Denver, Austin, LA, Chicago, all over the country. And during that time, we were pretty much nomads. We didn't have an apartment. We didn't have stuff. We lived out of suitcases. And we, for some reason in 2019, decided, okay, we'll come back to Brooklyn. We'll sublease a place for a couple months, see how it is, and then we'll go back on the road again. So we found the apartment that we're currently in because we took over someone's lease. And the lease was, I think, for 6 months. So we're like, okay, we'll unpack here for 6 months. We'll take all of our old furniture that we had left in Adam's parents' house, and we'll just stay here for 6 months, and then we'll go back to bouncing around. Well, those 6 months turned into us signing our first full lease here, and then it turned into the pandemic, and here we still are. Even though this apartment was supposed to be temporary and this life in Brooklyn was supposed to be temporary, it's now become a place where I don't know where else I would want to live. I have fallen so in love with where I live, the area, my apartment, even the fact that it's only 500 square feet. I'm like loving these days. So it's just so interesting how sometimes we don't know where we're going to end up, and we think we're going to end up somewhere temporarily, but then we decide that we really never want to leave. And that's sort of where I'm at right now with living in Brooklyn. I realize that some of you who listen to the show, and you have listened to the show for a while, you might know a little bit about me, but you might not know much. So rather than doing a whole episode that introduces every single thing about me, I figured I would just share with you 4 random facts about me. And by the way, I love knowing who listens to this podcast because I can't see you, I can't feel you. So if you listen to the show and you want to share a fun fact with me, drop in my inbox, jenglantz@gmail.com. DM me on Instagram @JenGlantz. I would love, 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 love to know the most fun fact you have about you. So let me tell you my 4 facts. Number 1, if you didn't know this, I was born on April Fool's Day. And I think that having that birthday comes with a certain kind of personality that just explains so much about who I am. I am somebody who is overly passionate. If I am in love with something, I never want to stop talking about it. I want to tell you about it. I become utterly obsessed with it. Like right now, I'm very passionate about selling all of my clothes on Poshmark. And if we were to hang out in person, I would tell you nonstop about why you should also make money selling your clothes on Poshmark. I'm also a little nutty about the things in life that I want, the dreams, the goals, and things like that. I think to go off and try to become an author and a podcaster and an entrepreneur, you have to not only believe in yourself in a very deep way, but you have to be open to taking a huge risk with your life. For example, some of you have resumes, you have career paths, you have journeys you've been on. And if I was to map mine out and ever try to get a full-time job again, they might laugh at me because truthfully, I gave up a career path to sort of live this weird life that I try to make work every single day. And I think in order to do that, you not only have to have a strong sense of self, but you have to be up to take a giant risk with your life and your career. And I think like the April Fool's Day birthday, the personality that I have, it just makes me foolish enough to believe in really humongous and odd dreams. Fact number 2, which I never really like talking about. I have friends who I've known for, I don't know, like a year who don't know this fact because I hide it with all of my might. I've been a vegetarian since I'm the age of 6. And one of the reasons why I don't talk about this is because when you tell people you're a vegetarian, they ask you so many questions. And I personally don't really have a lot of answers to these questions. I was vegetarian when I was 6 because I realized what animals were, and I said to myself, I don't want to eat them. And that's it. That was a personal decision I made at a very young age. I'm so incredibly stubborn that it's a decision that I stuck with and I will always stick with. But when people ask me about it, they want me to, dive into my aversion to meat and why I don't eat it. And I don't really think too much about it. It's just something that I have done since age 6. The other reason why I never like telling people I'm a vegetarian, and this was so true when I was dating, is because most of the people I'd go on a date with would be like, I'm going to change your mind. I'm going to get you to eat meat again. And that was the biggest red flag, because if I met a person who wanted to change me, who wanted to get me to eat meat, they didn't realize who I was. I'm a stubborn fool. And I just remember, this is a topic that I just don't like diving into. I don't know why I get weird about it, but I've been a vegetarian since I'm 6 years old and a pizza lover since I could chew, but I don't like fancy pizza. People will recommend all of these fancy pizza places to me. I like greasy dollar slices. The cheaper, the greasier, the better. I know this is going to make a lot of you roll your eyes or even send me really mean messages, but I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I like a good Domino's pizza, a good Papa John's slice, a good Pizza Hut every now and then. I'm not a fancy kind of girl. Number 3, I got laid off from my full-time job in 2015. So before I did a lot of what I do now, I worked full-time at a startup as a copywriter. I loved my job. I loved the company. I loved my coworkers. But one day they did a mass layoff and I was one of the first people to be let go. And I remember my boss was like, I don't even know why you're still here. You should be out doing your own thing. And I remember leaving the office building that day, promising myself, I stood by the door, I touched the door, and I said, Jen, we need to do whatever we can to never work for anybody else again. I vow to do everything I could to just be my own boss. I wanted to be a creative entrepreneur. I didn't want to just do one thing. I wanted to have books and podcasts and courses and all of these things. And for the past 7 years, I've stayed true to that goal. It has not been easy. It has not been glamorous. There's been some years where you make a lot of money, things are great. There's been other years where you lose all your sources of income and you start from scratch. There's been other times where I am panicked. For many of the 7 years, my self-worth, my positivity, my happiness was tied directly into how much money I could make every month. And if I didn't hit those money goals, I was depressed. And these are things I'm still working on. And I share that with you because sometimes when we hear, oh, they're an entrepreneur, they work for themselves, you think, oh, they live this amazing life and things are great for them. And it is. There's definitely perks. The perks are I can create my own schedule. If I don't want to work on a Wednesday, I don't have to. If I want to take a Friday off, I can. If I want to start work at 11 p.m., I can. I don't, but I could. There's definitely perks, but I think in order to make it this far, to be an entrepreneur for 7 years, you have to really, really, really be creative and find new ways to continue to grow and scale and make money. And that can be really hard. And it's something that I do not take for granted at all. Fact number 4 is that March is my lucky month. I think everybody has a lucky month. And if you went back for the past couple years, maybe there's a pattern in your life of a month that just made you feel like you won the lottery. March is my lottery month. The best things happen to me in March. For example, I met Adam on March 19th. I married Adam on March 19th, a couple years later, not the same year. I met Goofy on March 25th. I started this podcast in March. It's a month that always brings me the most incredible surprises, almost like the things I needed in life that I never knew I actually needed. So for me, March is my lottery month. Okay, those are my 4 fun facts. Thank you for learning a little bit about me. I don't know why I felt so inspired to do that, because some of you have listened to the podcast for a week or for years, and either way, you know me, but I really want you to know me. So those are some of the facts that I would share with you IRL if we were truly friends. Starting this Sunday, it's the Jewish New Year. It's a holiday called Rosh Hashanah. And I am Jewish. I celebrate Rosh Hashanah every single year. And it's interesting because we all have a new year that starts on January 1st. But in the Jewish religion, the new year is actually in September. And I view this new year as not a chance to start new. My start new date is January 1st, but having a new year in September allows me to pause. And every single year on Rosh Hashanah, I like to press a pause button. And what I like to do is look at my life for the last couple months of the year as if those months, those 3.5 months, were a year of their own. And during that time, I think to myself, okay, Jen, if we were to look back at January to September, what were the habits? What were the things that you really felt good about, that you were proud of, that worked for you? And what were the things that you haven't done yet? What were the promises you didn't do? What were the things that you tried and you failed and you're scared of and you want to do by the end of the year? A big part of the Jewish New Year is to make promises for the year ahead. And all of us, I think, could look at September as a month where we shake things up a little bit and we say, okay, how are the next 3.5 months going to look different? What if you were able to restart the year in September, except to restart the year in September, you had only 3.5 months to get it all done? I know that sounds stressful and I know that sounds like a lot, but what if this Sunday, this Monday, this Tuesday, you did that for yourself and you said, okay, 3.5 months left of the year. Who do I want to become? What do I want to try? What do I want to finish? What promises can I make to myself that this time I won't break? And here's how I won't break them. A couple days ago, I took a day off of work and I sat at a coffee shop from 9 to 5. And I took inventory on my year so far. And I saw all the things I promised I would do that I haven't done yet. I saw all the things that I want to start that I haven't started yet. Thought about the places I wanted to go and the people I wanted to even call up and say hi to and the person I wanted to try to start to become before the end of the year. And I didn't overwhelm myself with endless goals and endless promises that I knew I wasn't going to keep. But instead, I found a couple of things, 5 things that I want to do by the end of the year, because if I do them, 2022 will be a success. Doesn't matter what happened from January to September, that is done, that is signed, sealed, delivered. But if I do these 5 things, and these are 5 things that based on realistic timelines, how life is, I could do them. There is nothing preventing me from doing them. If I do them, 2022 will be a success. And what a way to end a year, by looking at yourself and saying, I was a success. And nobody has to know that success started happening at the end of September. So whether or not you celebrate the Jewish New Year, one of the traditions that we do is we eat apples and honey. You dip the apple in the honey to wish yourself a sweet new year. Maybe get yourself some apples, get yourself some honey, get yourself a paper and some pens and write out what you can do now till the end of the year to make it a success. The promises we make ourselves are the ones we should keep more than any other promise that we make. Why? It gives us strength. It gives us self-worth. It increases our confidence. And it allows us to see that if we show up for ourselves and our promises first, we won't let anything else or anyone else down either. Happy Jewish New Year. Happy Rosh Hashanah. Happy end of September, my friends. Until next week, all my love, Jen Glantz. Hey, you. Thank you for listening to the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast. There are hundreds of thousands of pods out there, so thank you for listening to this one. You can find the show notes for this week's episode up on our website, anyyounger.com. Subscribe, rate, and review the You're Not Getting Any Younger podcast on iTunes so that other ears around the world can listen too. Oh, and join our secret You're Not Getting Any Younger Facebook group, where over 1,000 people are talking about how to disrupt their lives, for a good reason, to make it count. Until next week, All my love, Jen Glantz.